Good afternoon, Head2head listeners. This is Chris. Hopefully everybody is doing well on this election Tuesday. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to cast your vote or you're en route to do so. This episode is brought to everyone by www.sargesgiftshop.com. It is ran by a friend of our shows, Mr. Al Mott, 71-year-old disabled veteran who happens to also be one of the original Delta Raiders in Vietnam. So our appreciation and gratitude for him and his comrades in Vietnam and all of our men and women serving right now and our veterans. Again, we absolutely appreciate what you have done or what you are currently doing. But again, this episode is brought to everyone by www.sargesgiftshop.com. Check that out and support Mr. Al Mott. On this episode, we're going to be discussing firearm safety as well as having confidence to not only carry a firearm, but also kind of stepping outside your everyday box and exploring new things, whether it's startup business, jumping out of a plane, doing some snowboarding, whatever it might be that you typically don't do. Go explore and have confidence doing so. And we're going to be engaging a special guest, Ms. Karen Hunter, who is not only a firearms instructor, but she also writes for multiple outlets. Coffee or Die is an online magazine from Black Rifle Coffee Company, NRA contributor, as well as multiple different outlets. She is very involved in not only firearms, but the safety and the knowledge, and there is a resource to get people confident in doing these things. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Step outside your box and enjoy some new things and have confidence while doing it. And she does bring a very good perspective of how she came about becoming a firearms instructor, as well as, again, just having confidence in doing some things that maybe you necessarily wouldn't be doing or have not done yet. So, again, take a listen to this. Any feedback on this matter or any matter for that matter. That's fantastic play on the same word. But either way, enjoy this episode. Give us some feedback. We would definitely appreciate it. Good afternoon, Miss Karen. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Did you get out there today and vote?
I did.
Fantastic. Well, that's good. That's a good way to exercise that, huh?
Absolutely.
So you're out in the Cincinnati, Ohio area?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. How's the weather out there?
It's chilly and windy, but sunny, so that's good.
Oh, you got that going. Yeah, we're chilly, wet, and more
Oh,
wet in
oh,
the Pennsylvania. But, as long as we're breathing, that's what matters,
exactly.
So I appreciate you coming on our show today, especially given, it's Veterans Day's coming up and the fact that it's election day kind of all kind of together here this year, obviously. And you're a firearms instructor.
I am. Yes, I am.
Now, how did you get involved in that?
Well, I started shooting with my brother. He's very passionate about caring and being able to protect yourself and your family. And he invited me to the range one day. I had zero idea how to hold the gun, what to do with the gun. I didn't know anything.
Sure.
So I started with him and then I loved it. So I started looking around for training and I went to, obviously I took to Instagram and just started looking random things up. And I fell upon a gentleman named Fred Masterson and had no idea who he was, but I saw that he had a training that was coming in Indiana, which was close to me. And so it was just complete happenstance. So he and I got to talking, and he's also a writer. So he found out that I also write, and that's my background, and introduced me to the whole world of, gun writing and gun reviews and training and things like that. So what he did first was he had me shoot the dot torture test on my own. I had no
Very
idea
good.
what it was. I think he just wanted to gauge kind of where I was as a shooter. Um, and I did rather well on that. So he was impressed. So he just kind of started training me himself. So he became my mentor. Then he had me write um, an article. He just gave me a topic, said, go ahead and write me something about this. And he said I could write. And it just kind of all steamrolled from there. So through him, I became certified in defensive handgun and carbine instruction. And he and I trained together. I'm his senior range officer. And I also write professionally in the gun industry now.
Wow, that's amazing. How long did it take you to get senior on that? Because it seems like you pretty much got an interest and you just went for it.
Yeah, I became his senior range officer within a year.
Wow.
This is my passion. So it's all I do.
Well, I can see, and he now just to give him a little background on Mr. Fred Masterson.
Mhm.
He is from Force Options. Is that correct?
Yes, he is the CEO of Force Options USA, which wow, they do everything. So they do executive protection work, they train. He does civilian training as well as law enforcement training.
Hmm.
Um, he's I never get this right because I'm not a martial arts person. So I'm not even going to say what black belt degree he is, but he's way up there with that too. He does it all. He's former military as well. So he's been in the industry for over, gosh, 30 years, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
he's a good guy, really good guy, knows his stuff. So I was lucky to happen upon him versus someone else. So
Well, yeah, no, he seems like a very reliable, obviously, connection as well as very educated in the subject matter, just on all levels of it.
yeah, absolutely.
So now you do some public speaking as well on personal defense and the Second Amendment.
Um, a little bit. So mostly like for smaller groups, like so far what I've done is different groups of women. I didn't plan for it to be like that, but it just kind of happened that way. So a lot of women um, are nervous about beginning to carry and things like that. So basically, what I've spoken about so far is um, how to carry, uh, different ways that women can carry. I do classes for women like that they're nervous a little bit,
Hmm.
things like that.
Well, I think that's outstanding because a lot of times the woman is you have a single mother or you have now CEO type women of power now, empowered women now, and obviously they know how to carry themselves professionally and they get their education, but being able to handle a firearm and have the confidence is very, very important for everybody. And I'm
Hmm.
just speaking for the fact I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I see that she does everything that my boys do, and probably does it even better than them.
Yeah.
And she can go from playing sports and getting dirty to playing with her Barbies and her dollhouse, and more importantly
That's
for her.
an interesting thing that you say there too, because one of my passions for the industry is I'm very anti feminist, the feminist movement, as in the liberal feminist movement. I think it's just gone off the deep end, but I'm kind of old fashioned. But I even can see sometimes that creeps into the 2A industry a little bit.
Mm,
Um, a lot of women are nervous to go to trainings, or they're nervous to go to the range with men because they think they're going to be treated differently, um, or women are too easily offended. Um, so when it comes to being in this industry or shooting with men or training with men, or you know, I don't think it always has to be segregated. I think that there's a way to be accepted into that without and to find a healthy balance. For example, you have some women who just go in there and basically act like a man. I mean, like your daughter, you can go do all these things that are considered typically a man's world, you can do them, but you can still do them and be feminine, be a lady.
Sure.
You don't have to be so
Absolutely.
easily offended, and you don't also have to just go out there and act like a man. But
Right.
that's one of the things that I'm really big on. And sometimes women will not agree with what I say, but and then you're always going to have that person that um, treat you like you don't know what you're doing because you're a woman, and they assume. And I've had that happen, but that's a rarity. I don't think it's as common as what some women say it is. And I think when it does happen, you just need to just let it go. For example, I did a training this weekend, and there were 13 men and 2 women, and I didn't know any of these people. So but the neat thing is what I find when I do things like this, people don't really treat you as a man versus a woman. They just treat you as shooters. And not one time did anyone offend me or her. Everyone was just like normal people that coming together to train. So sometimes I think that's an issue that's made bigger than what it actually is.
Well, I can agree with that. I'm in the powerlifting community myself, and we routinely um, look at our peers, whether they're male or woman, and it's just this big community now. We're obviously we're competing, but in the powerlifting, you're competing with yourself, and I did the same logic when I was in the firearms, whether it be in the military, law enforcement. You know, hey, these men and women, let's get this going. Let's keep this going. I see it even in the sports world now. If you've ever watched MMA fights nowadays in the last 5 years, and I'm not just speaking of Ronda Rousey, the whole name. I'm
Mhm.
just talking about in general. If you watch a woman's MMA fight now, it is more entertaining at times than a man's. Same goes with women's soccer, the United States soccer team. There's a long time there that the women's national team was more exciting to watch than their male counterparts, and I think that's a big credit of just getting out there and kind of put pushing yourself as a human to just get it done. If that's what you're interested in, that's your passion. Basically, the hell with what I guess quote unquote what we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to act, right? I mean,
Yeah,
just
exactly. Yeah.
so I commend you for doing that and getting in there and you're doing it well. I mean, 1 year and now you're already the senior um, on the range, and then you're obviously you have a lot of writing credit as well, so you're knowledgeable outside of actually holding the firearms.
Yes, I really, really enjoy the writing aspect of it.
Well, I
And
see that
that's,
you contribute to quite a lot of different outlets.
yes, I write for Athlon, and some of the magazines I write for them would be Ballistic, Tactical Life, Personal Defense World, Combat Handguns. Um, One magazine that they have is Guns of the West. So
Hmm.
it's like, cowboy magazine. I'm going to have an article coming out in there I'm really excited about. It's about revolvers. But, and then I also write for the NRA. They have a website called America's First Freedom. I usually have 2 articles on there a month. So there's a lot of different people I get to write for. So it's really interesting, and it's a way to get information about training out there, and proper information, because there's just with our social media and the internet, there's just information overload. And I remember before I knew anything at all, I didn't know who was good versus bad information versus something I could rely on versus someone who just, started their own blog. And, I mean, anybody can put anything out there. Being able to ascertain what is good knowledge versus, poor knowledge is very hard. So it's good that I feel good that I get to write and put information out there that's, accurate. And if I don't know something, I won't write about it. Um, I won't step out of that, and I won't, because I think with firearms, especially training and when it comes to, guns and the mechanics of a gun, that's not something you can, BS your way through. So
You're right.
um,
Agreed.
yeah, so if I'm writing about something, it's because I feel like I have a solid knowledge of it, and I've studied for it, and I've had experience with it. And if I don't, then I just won't touch that topic yet. So,
Well, I can definitely respect that theory. It's about having confidence, right? You got to have the confidence in yourself to handle a firearm. And obviously, if you're going to write articles and things about it, then obviously you're confident in not only your abilities, but also the knowledge that you've gained through handling firearms and practicing kind of what you preach. I read an interesting article that I think you did just a few days ago on America's First Freedom. I think it was an NRA
mhm.
article, basically about the 5 drills that you should practice. Now, is that just a general overview of those 5 drills, or is it tailored to one particular group, maybe someone just starting out, or that's just kind of an overview for everyone to kind of look at?
That is kind of a general overview. I think that um, as you when you start out, those are probably really good ones to start with, and then as you progress and get a little more confident and um, we always get better, the more you train and the more you practice. Maybe you don't have to do those all the time, but they're absolutely good refreshers to always come back to. So they're just kind of basic things to maybe either at the start of your journey to incorporate all the time, or, as you're further along to come back to and refresh with. Because sometimes
Sure,
people go to the range and they're just wasting ammo. You have to having a plan is good, because just static shooting is just that, you're just static shooting. But once you can get comfortable with those drills, then you can start moving and shooting, and everything, all these principles build one upon another. So having a good range plan, and that was basically the purpose of that article, is to give some drills that people can utilize to increase their accuracy, increase their um, you know skill level, but also to have a plan to where they're not just point and shoot, point and shoot, point and shoot, and now you're hour or two's up and you've gone through 200 rounds and you have nothing to show for it. You know what I mean?
sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because that brings me up to the next point. Because I'm not one to assume anything, so I don't assume any of my listeners are just have held a firearm, or if they have, to your point, they just shoot them down to appease and then they move on. For people looking to either get more into firearms training for knowledge and just all overall confidence builder, or those that have never held a firearm, what maybe some good practices should they should they seek out, maybe a coach? Should they just go down to the range? Should they read some articles before they get involved? How would I know that you said that your brother kind of got you into it just by watching what he was doing. But for those already, just kind of relatively speaking, how would you advise someone to get into it if they were on the verge, but again, their confidence isn't quite there to actually step foot out there and go try that?
Right. I would definitely encourage them to seek a professional out, to seek someone out that knows what they're doing. Because I remember, if it wasn't for my brother, I would have never gone on my own. And then, you know, obviously there's safety, issues with that, because sometimes people struggle with what and one end of the gun does what. So I would definitely seek someone out that can teach them, how to grip the gun, how the gun works, that can stand there with them, show them how to shoot it. Yeah, training is everything. And I also encourage, some people believe that, they can be comfortable with a gun or semi-comfortable, and they go and get their CCW, and they've done their CCW training, and they think that that's it, because people just don't know what they don't know. But training is a journey, and it's one of the things people will spend the least amount of money on, and it should be the thing that people, that's something that you budget for, because you can always get better. So yeah, I would definitely encourage someone, if they're interested, but they aren't quite comfortable or confident, to get training and go with somebody who knows what they're doing.
No, I actually kind of agree with that because I mean, it's one thing to walk into a range. Now, again, and that actually brings me to my next point. I don't believe, at least in my area, I don't believe that two ranges are the same. There's some in my area that are fantastic, and there's some that's little left to be desirable. Um, in your opinion, obviously, would you start doing the homework on that as well? Because there are a lot of times, at least in my experience, walk into a range, they just give you some things without a whole lot of instruction. They send you on your way, and I don't necessarily think that's the right way to go about it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, you see all the time the videos everywhere of people doing crazy things at the range. So when you step foot onto a range, you don't know who you're on there with, or what they're doing, or what their experience level is. Or, I mean, people muzzle each other, they are unsafe. So I would definitely do your homework with that, because I've been to ranges before where, there's a safety video, sign off that you watched the safety video. Well, I didn't watch the safety video. Well, go ahead and just sign off, like. So
Right.
I mean, so yeah, definitely do your homework on what range you go to. And I've been to some where the range officers are excellent and they're watching everybody. And then I've been to some that there's not even a range officer in the room. So you want to make sure, I mean, these are live rounds, they're not toys. And so wherever you go, I mean, especially if it's a newer shooter, depending on where they're at, that could make or break whether they remain a shooter or not. They could have a terrible experience and never want anything to do with it again. So, yeah, definitely do your homework on where you're going to go and what range you're going to go to. And that's why I would seek out a professional, because typically, if you seek out somebody that knows what they're doing, they're professional, they'll guide you through that process. They're not going to take you somewhere that is going to give you a bad experience, typically. So,
Sure. Sure. Now, is there, I guess it would just depend on locally where to find those individuals. So, for instance, if somebody up in your area was looking for you guys, how would they go about finding you guys specifically, or just in regional, or any insights to that?
that's where it gets kind of tricky, because even when I went to try to find training, like Fred is in Arizona and I'm in Ohio, and but he does classes all over. Um, so finding somebody can be kind of difficult. So I think that a good thing to do would be to maybe contact, like, people contact us a lot and they'll say, who can I find in this area wherever I'm at? And then we would do our best, like, if we're not going to that area, but you know like, we know people everywhere, and we can give them a sound recommendation for where they're at, or get them hooked up with somebody. So if anyone out there is seeking something like that, like, they could always go to our website, contact us, or contact us on Instagram or whatever, and we can help find somebody for them. And there's a
Sure.
lot of trainers out there that do that. So
And now, what would that be? Force options?
it's www.forceoptionsusa.com.
Perfect. I like the USA at the end of that. That's tailored.
Yeah.
I like that. And I do appreciate, that information. Because I know my wife was one of those that she's very timid of the firearm type deal. And then one day I just took her down to one of our local ranges again, doing my homework, and have gone there before. They do presentation, and they do a thorough, I guess as thorough as they can do. But it was one of the nicest one. And I just find that now she goes now every so often, to kind of hone your skills. Not one of the things you want to go do one time and then you go, okay, I'm done. Unless you're completely not interested after doing it once.
Right.
Right. Because you want, like you said, you want to hone your skills. But for me, I just see a different confidence in her. Not that she wasn't confident, but now I see she knows how to, mentality wise, I've held a gun, I've actually pulled the trigger, and now I'm learning that skill, because it is a skill to master. And the nice thing about it is you can go from a handgun to a rifle or an automatic, whatever it might be, and it's all different kinds of skills per
Exactly.
that particular weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's funny because, um, like I just did a class for a group of ladies, and this group was and I usually don't do women only classes, but this was actually a group of ladies that were the wives of a lot of their husbands I shoot with. And one was my brother, so it was my sister-in-law, and then some other ladies, and they did not want to go with their husbands, and because they felt like uh when it's your wife, I think some men are like, because they understand why you need to carry, and they love their wife and they want them to be protected, and they can't be with them 24/7. So it's like, you need to carry this gun. You need to protect yourself. They understand it so much, but what they don't understand is for their wife, the wife might be like, but I'm afraid. Like, so sometimes it's easier to learn because they don't know anything. It's easier to learn from another woman because of that perspective. And so my hope was to do this class, get them acclimated, make them feel comfortable, and then eventually they'll come to the range with their husbands. And it was a really good class. And now my sister-in-law, she is now going to the range with my brother, to try to start shooting, get more acclimated to it so that she can eventually carry. And a couple of the other ladies they're all gung-ho about it now. So it's just getting over that. I think that there's a fear sometimes with the gun, and it's just coming to the point where you understand that, okay, this is just a gun. It's not going to magically explode. It's not going to go off
Right.
on its own, and I'm in control of this, and understanding the safety aspect. And I think that's one of my favorite things as an instructor, is getting people to that point where they're like, okay, this isn't this super scary monster that it's made out to be, and understanding that they can, carry a gun, and they can utilize the gun and things like that. So,
No, I completely agree because it has to be comfortable. There's got to be a comfort level, and that's probably why you would typically say, hey, I don't want to go shoot with my husbands or my other peers, maybe for an embarrassment part of it because they don't know how to shoot yet. Maybe
mhm.
that's kind of it, or maybe they're just not comfortable. I don't know, but I can tell you this just by doing my homework on kind of the things that you do. I mean, you're holding a Sig M400 like no big deal in one of your posts
Mhm.
like that. That's comfort right there. That is a comfort level that that weapon and yourself, and you're just gonna get it done.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because one of the things that helped me a lot, like before I even ever started shooting, if somebody would have showed me, that rifle, I'd have been like, huh? I don't know what to
Right.
do with that. But Fred did something with me that was phenomenal. Um, he had me break the gun completely down. And once I broke it down into just parts, and I realized, okay, now I understand how this works. Um, Everything began to make more sense to me. And I'm like, it took the mystery away from it, I think. And of course, I just went full on, I want to shoot everything. So, but yeah, it's just when you get that confidence, not a cockiness, but a confidence that you're in control of this. And it's once you overcome that, it makes everything much easier, and a lot easier to understand as well.
I agree, and that's why personally I take almost it's almost insulting to me, especially and I'm bringing this up because it's election day, today is election day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things, a lot of cities and towns around the country are running off of gun control, anti-guns or pro-guns, and all that stuff, depending on where you're at, depending on how hard it hits at home. And I almost take it as an insult where they try to make it out, that we shouldn't have guns. Um, you never hear them, and I'm saying them as anti-guns,
Mm-hmm.
that community. You never hear them say we need more education. It's just anti-guns because the gun killed the person, not the person behind the gun killed the person. The gun did it,
Exactly.
and that actually bothers the hell out of me because to your point, with the, you as an individual, man or woman, took it upon yourself to educate yourself, and then under supervision and now being the supervisor yourself, um, learn the skill, honed in on that skill, and now you are, you're very accurate in, as far as confidence and what you're doing. And I think that's actually a lost part of the conversation is educating yourself and going through the motions of becoming confident, not cocky, but confident,
Hmm.
and then honing your skill.
Exactly. And to what you said, you're so spot on there. The guns are not the problem. It's the breakdown in our society that's a problem. They took there's such they took so much out of even just our educational system. If you think about it, like they've taken so much away from um, teaching children to respect authority. Um, like there's such a breakdown there that a lot of our children and younger generations, they have no respect. They can do whatever they want, and there's no discipline. And there's just such a breakdown there that people are not realizing that this is not the guns. This is something wrong with that person who had the gun, or you know there's a million different reasons why, but guns are not killing people. People are killing people. And another thing that just really irritates me is yes, there are accidents that happen when people are not safe with their firearms at home, and like children um, sadly get a hold of a firearm that's not been you know kept safely somewhere, or the child has not been educated on it, or what have you, and accidents do happen, and that is tragic. However, the media will spin that, and when people see these statistics about how many children have been killed with a firearm because it's just been in the home, what people are not understanding is there's a spin on that number, that a lot of the percentage of the children are actually anywhere from 16 to 19 years old. And these have been like, it, let's say, I don't want to say like, well, for an example, like gangs. We'll say there's a gang related thing or whatever, and something happens in a home, and one of those gang members ends up dying or whatever. And they happen to be 18 years old. That would be classified as a child who was harmed and killed with a handgun in a home. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
So
they skew the numbers to make whatever they are trying their point.
yes,
They try to skew the numbers to make their point.
yes. Then we have a whole middle part of people who don't understand these statistics, and they don't understand, really, they're not pro gun or they're not anti gun, but they hear these statistics, and then they hear someone say, well, we need to do this because this meant many children have been killed by a firearm. And then they think, oh yeah, that sounds good. And people just flow with whatever sounds good versus really checking out the facts. And so yeah, the whole uh, yeah, it's just, I could go on forever.
Sure.
The whole thing's just irritating sometimes, but I think it's really important also in the gun industry that people really, just because you hear something doesn't mean that's the way it is. Always research for yourself. Just don't take what you're fed. Always check your information.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that is my major gripe in the world today is not being fully informed, and more importantly, educating yourself, whether it's on firearms, um, politics, you know, other people, your affairs, whatever it is. People, because we live in an age right now that everything's at your fingertips. Very little research goes into getting information. Everything is just right there.
Mm-hmm.
My kids don't even know what a card catalog is at a library.
Right.
You know, you know. So because everything's digital, everything is right there. If you want something, you can go on a little website called Amazon, and you'll get it next same day, next day.
Exactly.
It's that and as convenient as that is, and that's exactly what it is, there's no research involved. You
Mm-hmm.
go there and you get it all instantaneously. And I think that's what's happening with our youth. And as parents, depending on what side of it, is it easier just to sit your kid down with an iPad and let them watch it for hours and hours, or take them out back and let them, scrape their knee, um,
Exactly. You're exactly
and
right.
learn. And it's about self-coping. My son, he's 1 years old. Last week we took his pacifier from him,
Mm-hmm.
just cold turkey. That's it. That's your life now, and now you need to learn how to self-soothe. And that should be the way it goes as these children grow to young men and women, and then obviously as adults. That's why I admire people like yourself. You took, it might have been a little bit uncomfortable, but you were interested in firearms, and you went for it. And now you figured it out and you educated yourself properly. And I think that's what people should do, um, in every aspect of their life. If they want to do something, if you want to do something, educate yourself. There's not enough education for you. Just keep getting it in, keep getting that motivation, keep getting that education.
Yeah, I totally
So you,
agree. And
so
research your education, like there's so much misinformation out there. And I think, like you said, people just don't want to think for themselves anymore. They just want to be told. And so anytime, no matter what it is in life, if somebody says something, I'm like checking and double checking and checking sources and checking facts. And, I want to know that, whatever I believe or whatever I'm doing is, you know, accurate and right for me versus just because that's what I'm being told.
well, that's it right there too, right? So depending on what news outlet you watch, or what newspaper you read, or what column on the internet you read, hopefully you fact check that particular thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you follow up with more and more research to see if things are the same, and then make an educated guess for yourself, or not guess rather, but an educated um, decision
Mm-hmm.
based off of your research.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
So, so you've been so getting back to kind of what you're doing. You did a little CQB training.
I did. It was my first time to ever do that. I was a little nervous because, I didn't know. I knew one person, and but I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know how many people were going to be there. It was a mix of civilians and police officers. So yeah, and even though I do this, I was still, I'm still a person. I was nervous, but
Sure.
everyone was amazing. They were so nice, and these instructors were phenomenal. Um, and we did the CQB, and then we were in the shoot house, and it was really cool because the shoot house was big, but it was like big structure, and they had rooms and everything, but the top was completely open, and they had a catwalk that went over the top. So when you were done with your team, you could go on top and watch the other teams go through. And I think I almost learned more from that, because then you see, okay, I'm not the only one that did that, and now I can see how I could do this differently. It was just a phenomenal experience. We did 36 hours of training.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just, but it was eye opening for me because I'm huge on situational awareness. And I don't think that the gun is a cure all. And when you get your gun and your CCW, it does not come with a cape. You are not suddenly the savior of everybody and a superhero. So,
Hmm.
um, I think that's a common misconception too. But
Sure.
and I think that if you can get away from a situation, the object is to never have to pull your gun. Um, so situational awareness is huge. But when I did this training, it took that to almost like a whole new level. So I don't think I'll ever see my role the same again. So like I'm sitting in my house, I'm like, okay, if something were to happen over there, how would I get to this room? Like now my mind's
Right.
like, I mean, it just really enlightened me to um, how even though that type of training, um, we were doing it on the end of like we were breaching a house or breaching a room. You can also kind of do it backwards. Like I'm in Walmart, something happens, let's say an active shooter comes in. How do I get out, or how do I get my family to safety? What angles would I have to take? And so I think that these types of classes are beneficial for everybody. I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not a police officer. No, you're not. But this kind of training could definitely help you in any type of situation that you may, find yourself in. So yeah, and I'll
Well,
definitely do another one. So it was great.
now, was that 36 hours straight through?
No, we did it was 36 hours over 3 days. So the
Okay.
longest day was Saturday. We started at 9 and we ended at about 2:30 in the morning. So
Wow.
yeah, we did some, but and the instructor was really awesome because he was watching everybody for fatigue and things like that. He was very safety minded. But everyone was just so, the adrenaline was going, everyone was just alert and just so fascinated with the training that he was fine to keep going. And I actually didn't feel tired until today. So
So it caught up with you.
yeah, it caught up with me today.
Well, I appreciate you having some time with us where you could have been outside getting a nap
Oh no, that's
outside of
okay. I
work.
was so excited. Thanks for asking me to be on. So I think that what you guys are doing is great. I like how your show's multifaceted. And you talk about so many different things that need to be talked about. I listened to the show where you were talking about the veterans transitioning from service into everyday, life and work and things like that.
Right.
And I did actually did an article on this. There's a program called the Foundations for Exceptional Warriors.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they do. Uh, they'll take, service members that are transitioning. And I think like their focus is a big thing why people have problems transition like that is that camaraderie's gone, that brotherhood. Um, like the one guy said it best in that organization. He said, you go from, being online with a guy, you're behind and he takes your hand, to get you up where he's at. You transition from that type of mentality to you're at a stoplight and people are trying to drive over top of you to get to where they're going, So
Mhm.
their whole thing is helping veterans transition into just everyday life when you don't have, it's like a new perspective, it's a new way to live, and you don't have that camaraderie anymore. And so what they do is they take veterans out on excursions, like fishing trips, hunting trips, skydiving trips, like things like that, where
Wow.
they get to bond again. And there's some, I mean, you should look them up. They'd have some amazing stories. It's a really good organization.
And where would we find that at?
Um,
What is it?
the few, it's SEW.
Mhm.
Um, Forgive me, I do not remember their website off the top of my head, but it's the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors.
Okay.
And
No, we'll definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really neat organization. And I did an article. It was actually on America's First Freedom. Um, there's an article on there about them and what they do.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. I do see the Foundation for Exceptional Warriors. That looks to be www.exceptionalwarriors.org. Um, we'll definitely reach out to those individuals as well to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Um, but I find it interesting, kind of full circling back to that interview with Adam Baratz. He's postmilitarypro.com, and his story of, being in the Air Force. Something happened to him on a personal level. He was overseas, and back home his apartment, somebody broke into his apartment and basically cleaned them out. And so he decided, and as he's flying over, what am I doing here? This is crazy. Basically he felt like his life was, he was helpless. He couldn't do anything about his apartment.
Yeah.
And then he played it, he did, he was part of the band in the Air Force, and he played for some military personnel that were on their way over, to go to combat. And having someone come to him and say, "Hey, I really appreciate that. basically I was feeling down, kind of helped Adam regain himself and say, hey, I'm in here for the right reasons. Even though this is big to me in the whole picture, it's small. And that's, with me, and the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, specifically personally speaking, is because when I came out, it was basically, you're not re-enlisting. No, I'm not re-enlisting. Okay, well, here's your stuff. See you later. And um, that was it. And I thought that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out 12 years later, actually that's not it. There's other resources out there. And the problem is I am in the majority of military people transition out that didn't know there were resources like Post-Military Pro, like the VA, or this exceptionalwarriors.org, or the multitude of other different avenues
Mm-hmm.
one could take to help get, whether it's legal advice, career advice, medical, or benefits, or the other slew of things that are out there. There's no handbook for that stuff, and a lot of veterans, myself included, that I've talked to, they almost feel bad to ask for help. It's kind of not in the nature to do that.
Right.
And I think as we're starting to slowly, things are turning, where having a tattoo with your military pride on it, which was viewed as well, I appreciate you serving our country, but was really kind of their way to not make you a candidate based off of a visible tattoo that you might have on your arm. That's slowly turning,
Yeah.
because now it's becoming more acceptable. And I'm for one that, a veteran and someone equally as qualified, not one of them should have the equal, like, let that best man or woman get the position,
Mm-hmm.
but don't disqualify our veteran, our transition to military folks, because they have a visible tattoo. Obviously within reason, obviously, right? So you
Right.
don't want to have something not tasteful on your body, obviously, for that. But that was kind of the conversation there, and it was really, really eye-opening, as is this conversation, based off of just having confidence. And again, it's not so much necessarily triggered or geared to holding a firearm. It's just about having confidence. You step outside of your box, set outside of what you think is your limits, and explore something new.
Exactly.
And again, it's not about being a man or a woman at this point. Like I said, we see women powerlifters all the time when I'm training, and they're strong as hell.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and you'll see them doing deadlifts or squats just as much, if not more, than the man next to them, which is just incredibly motivating for me.
Yeah.
Um, because now like I said, it resonates to me a little more because I have a daughter, and I'm like, all right, I get, that's fantastic. So, I encourage everybody to get outside of their norm and just try something different,
Oh yeah, no matter what it may be. Yeah.
So, but well, I definitely appreciate your time, Miss Karen. And is there anything that you're currently working on? Any more articles for anyone that you're working on that we can look forward to?
Oh yeah, I've done. um well, let's see. Black Rifle Coffee is
Correct.
they're kind of reworking they have a magazine called Coffee or Die. And so that will be coming out soon. And that's more of a lifestyle type magazine. But I have a monthly gun column in there that's going to be coming out. And that's where the tread that was on my Instagram page, that'll be coming out. A review on that will be coming out there. So I'll be posting that on my Instagram when that hits. So that's one thing. But then I have other articles that'll be coming out in Ballistic and other magazines. So typically when something's about to hit, I'll say, look for this, it'll be coming. Or when it is released, I'll put it up on my Instagram or Facebook. And if anybody's interested, they can go read it.
No, absolutely. I encourage it, as I will encourage, even though I haven't had the pleasure of speaking with anybody over Black Rifle. We're doing something here at Head to Head. Me and Scott are testing out different coffees from veteran-owned coffee makers.
Hmm.
And we're going to be giving a review. And Black Rifle Coffee Company is actually one of the coffees that obviously is more well known in the veteran community. But we actually have the silencer and the death punch blends,
Oh, okay.
respectively. So we're testing out those coffees as well. So um, I do appreciate that the coffee or die article. Now, you said, when is that coming out?
That should be, it'll be, I think, December.
December.
Yeah, sometime in
Perfect.
December. Yeah. So I'll let you know when that's all ready to go.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll keep in contact, and if we can help you out in any way here at Head to Head, with anything up and coming as far as your writings, anything going down with out there on the range, let us know. We'll be glad to give you that platform for you guys.
Oh, I appreciate that. And thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed being on your show.
Sure. Well, share us with your friends and family and your colleagues, and you guys are more than welcome to reach out to us. With any questions, or if you particularly, or any of your colleagues or friends or family have anything that they want to discuss. We're open to everything.
Okay, I will do.
All right. Well, this is Chris with Head to Head, and this is Miss Karen Hunter. You can find her on LinkedIn. Look for her writings on out in the NRA, Guns of the West magazine, obviously the Coffee or Die from Black Rifle, and others. And again, Miss Karen, you take care of yourself, and we look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.